Hi everybody, my name is Ryan and this is lesson 9 of learning HTML and CSS. In this lesson we'll be learning how to add headings to our document. You should already be familiar with the H1 tag which we've used in the last few lessons. H1 stands for heading 1 and it is a nice bold big heading. Let's have a look. There you can see. And HTML, remember, is really a structural language, so it's purely to do with structure. So even though it does impact on the size and the weight of the font, in a sense it's got nothing to do with that. It's simply acting as a structural mechanism. So it's telling us that is a main heading. Another heading that we get is an H2, which is the next level down. So it's a subheading. And here we have it. So you'll see it is smaller, but remember the size is not really an issue because that can be changed using CSS, presentation language, at a later stage. So the look is not the issue at this point. We're purely trying to structure the document. So main heading, subheading. These two are used very often in a document. So typically you would normally have one main heading within each page. You can have more, of course, but normally it's one main heading, and then you would have multiple subheadings. So for example, I might create another subheading down here, and then maybe some more paragraphs. So the typical structure of a page: main heading, subheading, talk about the subheading a little bit, have another subheading, talk some more about that subheading, and so on. And we have, if you go to W3 Schools, to the HTML reference, look under H, you'll see there's H1 to H6. So H1 is on the highest level, it's your main heading, and H6 is on your lowest level. It's like a sub heading. Alright, if I look at the example on W3 Schools, there you can see the different headings all the way down to the smallest heading. And don't worry about how it looks. Remember that HTML is simply a structural language. We can change the look of this later using CSS. The important thing is it's showing a structure. It's designating different levels. Okay, it's very seldom that you're going to use anything past an H3. So an H3 is a definite possibility. You may have something like a subheading. There we go, subheading, that's an H3. But it's very seldom that you're going to use an H4, H5 or H6. But I would encourage you to make use of the H1 to H3 on a regular basis. One reason for doing this is that the search engines will always look at the words inside of an H1 and see them as much more important than the words inside of a paragraph, for example. And then it would also look at the wording inside of a heading 2 and see them as very important. Not as important as H1, but still very important and more important than a regular paragraph. So in terms of search engines, these headings are absolutely essential. I'll show you an example of a website that makes good use of headings. Wikipedia, as I'm sure most of you know, is a website for an encyclopedia, a free encyclopedia. It's community driven, and this makes good use of headings. So here for example, you can see an H1, which is a main heading, and further down we can see several H2s. So this is an H2, this is an H2, and here's an H3. So it's all a matter of hierarchy. It also is very nice because your table of contents then works really well with different levels of headings. So I'd encourage you to make good use of headings. In fact, every single website that I create, I always use a main heading on every page along with subheadings. In terms of the type of tag it is, it's what we call a block level tag. All these tags are in fact block level tags. So H1, H2, H3, even a paragraph is a block level tag. A block level tag takes up the full width of the browser. So even though we can't see it, it goes all the way from the left to the right edge of the browser. Same with this one, and even the paragraphs. And one way you could see that is by adding some CSS to the document. So let's add some CSS. Remember, you need a link tag. We'll add lesson9.css. And then I'm just going to say, okay, heading 1, give me a background color of cyan. Save this as lesson 9, but with a CSS extension because it's cascading style sheets. Okay, so there's the evidence that this is what we call a block level tag. It takes up the full width of the browser. You'll see I could do the same to the H2. So this is how you apply one rule to multiple tags. You comma separate them. And you can see that it takes up the full width of the browser once again. So these are what we call block level tags. And this ends our lesson on adding headings to our document.